All right, today we are going to learn about 9 parent functions, and there is going to be a quiz coming up where you will need to know the names of these 9 parent functions, their equations, and what their graphs look like. Okay, so the first parent function up is our straight line, which is known as linear. There's the word line in the word linear. So whenever you have a diagonal line that goes through 0, 0 with a slope of 1, that is the linear parent function. So it's not just for any diagonal line out there. It has to go through 0, 0, and it has to have a slope of 1. So function notation means what's the equation for it. So instead of using y equals like you're kind of used to in the past, we're going to use f of x equals. F of x is called function notation. G of x, h of a, g of t. It's just a fancy way of writing y equals. And the equation for your linear parent function is x. So this quiz that's coming up, one thing you would have to be able to do is if you see a picture of a graph that looks like this, you would need to know 2 things. It's your linear parent function, and the equation of it is f of x equals x. Okay, so now we're going to fill out the table and do a couple things over here. We're going to save some of this for another day. All right, so remember in a table, your x's are what is happening left and right because the x-axis is left and right. So if your x is -4, that means you go left 4. And then f of x, remember, that's just a fancy y, and y is what you do up and down because the y-axis goes up and down. So y is what you're doing up and down. Okay, so I am going to go left 4, and in order to hit the graph, I have to go down 4. So since I had to go down 4, that means the y value is a -4 there. So now I'm going to go left 3, and I have to go down 3 to hit the graph. So that means the y is a -3 there. -2, that means I have to go left 2, and I have to go down 2 to hit the graph. So that means the y is a -2. When the x is -1, I go left 1, and I have to go down 1 to hit the graph. So the y is a -1. When the x is 0, that means you don't go right, you don't go left. Well, I'm already on the graph, which means my y value is also 0 because I'm not up or down off of that x-axis. Okay, when my x is a +1, that means I go right 1. Well, I have to go up 1 to hit the graph, so my y is a +1. When my x is a +2, that means I have to go right 2, and I have to go up 2 to hit the graph, so that means my y is a +2. And then when x is 3, I go right 3, and I have to go up 3 to hit the graph, so that means my y is a +3. And then when x is 4, you have to go right 4, and then you have to go up 4 to hit the graph, so that means your y is a 4. And did you notice the whole way through the table that the x and y are the same thing? That's because this is basically saying that y equals x. Y is the same thing as x, which you can see from the table. But I wanted to practice those graphing skills of plotting points because students tend to forget how to do that from time to time. Okay, x and y intercepts. This is the other thing that we're going to do today. X-intercepts are where the graph is touching the x-axis. So the graph is touching the x-axis right here, and that is the point 0, 0. Y-intercepts, that's where the graph is touching the y-axis, and the graph is touching the y-axis right there, and that's the ordered pair 0, 0. And that's all we're going to do on this problem for today. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about asymptotes, domain, and range. But for right now, this is all we're going to do. Okay, let's look at the next one. All right, so you need to know what this is called. This is our V-shaped graph, and the V is absolute value. See the V in the word value? Okay, so when you see a V-shaped graph that has its vertex at 0, 0, and it has a slope of 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, that is your absolute value parent function. And think of V and value for the V-shaped graph. And the equation for this graph, which you need to know, instead of y equals, remember we're going to do f of x equals, and then absolute value bars, those are two straight up and down lines with x inside. Okay, so this quiz that will be coming down the road, if you see a V-shaped graph, you need to know that that's your absolute value, and the equation is f of x equals the absolute value of x. Okay, so now to fill out this table, we could do a couple things. So first, I'm going to go left 4, and when I go left 4, I have to go up 4 to hit the graph. So my y is a positive 4. When the x is negative 3, I have to go left 3 and up 3 to hit the graph. So my y is a 3. But I want to show you another way of doing this, just in case at some point maybe you don't have the graph for yourself. Okay, so I am going to be showing you the online graphing calculator, because if you don't have your own calculator, that's the calculator you're going to have to use. All right, so I'm going to put it under the screen here and see if you guys can see it okay. All right, so this is the online graphing calculator that I have linked for our class. And so I am going to hit start and then start again. Okay, and then from there, I hit the button that looks like the calculator. And then it pops it up. All right, so what I'm wanting to put in is, this is your y equals, I want to type in absolute value of x. All right, so I'm going to go to the y equals button. And absolute value, so it's already got the y equals. So absolute value is hidden. You need to go to math, and then you need to go to number. So I'm going to right arrow to get over there. So I'm going to right arrow. And it's that very first thing, ABS. So if you didn't see me do it again, I went to y equals, the top left button, and then I'm going to go to math, and then I need a right arrow over so that NUM is highlighted. So I'm going to right arrow over, and I want number 1. So I can just hit enter because it's already highlighted. Okay, and then I just put an X in there. And X is right here to the right of that green alpha button. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and graph it. So the top right button says graph. And you can see it is a V-shaped graph that has its vertex at 0, 0. Okay, now I'm going to go to the table. So the table is above graph in blue. So I go second graph, and this gives me my table. And I can arrow up to see into the negatives. Now I can fill out my table just by looking at what I have here on this chart. So I'm going to move this screen away so I can write it down, but -4, 4, -3, 3. So that's another way to fill out the table if you don't already have a picture in front of your face. Okay, so I'm going to fill this out by looking at my calculator. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. I'm looking at my calculator. So I've got -4, 4. I've got -3, 3. I've got -2, +2, -1, +1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Okay. All right, now let's talk about x and y intercepts. So the x-intercept is where the graph is touching the x-axis. And the graph is touching the x-axis right here, once again at 0, 0. Y-intercepts, that's where the graph is touching the y-axis, and the graph is touching the y-axis right here, which is 0, 0. And that's all I'm going to do for this problem. Okay, the next one up has nothing on it, so I have to tell you everything. All right, so this time we are going to look at the quadratic parent. Do any of you remember what that looks like from your past? Do you remember that name, quadratic? The equation is f of x equals x squared. This is our U-shaped graph. Okay, now they already gave us the table of values, so I can just plot these points. So I'm actually just going to do that. So this would mean go left 4 and up 16. But when I go left 4, there's really no room to go up 16, so I'm not going to start with that one. This one's left 3 up 9, and I could kind of eyeball it. Left 3 up 9, you know, I'd be up here somewhere. So this is going to be the first one that I plot. So left 2 up 4. Left 2 up 4. Okay, next, after this one, I'm going to do negative 1, 1. So left 1, up 1. So left 1, up 1. 0, 0, that's easy. That's just at the origin where the two axes meet. Okay, 1, 1, that means go right 1, up 1. So right 1, up 1. And 2, 4 is going to be the last one I do because these are too big to plot. So right 2, up 4. Right 2, up 4. And this is a U-shaped graph. Think of the letter U in the word quadratic. So that U means this is a U-shaped graph. So try to make it curvy and not look like a V with arrows on both ends. And this is our quadratic parent function. So memory devices, the word value has a V, and absolute value makes a V-shaped graph. The word quadratic has a U, and it makes a U-shaped graph. Okay, so if this is the quiz down the road, if you see a U-shaped graph with its vertex at 0, 0, then it's the quadratic parent, and the equation is f of x equals x squared. All right, x-intercept. This is where the graph touches the x-axis. And the graph is touching the x-axis right here at 0, 0 again. And y-intercepts. This is where your graph is touching the y-axis. And the graph is touching the y-axis right there at 0, 0. And that happens a lot with your parent functions because the parent function has its vertex at 0, 0. Typically, that's how most of the parent functions go. There are some exceptions, but typically if it's a parent function, the vertex will be at 0, 0, which means the x-intercept and the y-intercept are also at 0, 0. Okay, let's flip the page. Flip. I'm making a video. All right, the next one we're going to do is the square root function. And this will be new to you. You have not worked with this graph in other classes. And its equation is f of x equals the square root of x. Okay, so I'm going to go to my calculator to help us get the table of values. Okay, so I'm going to access my calculator. And I'm going to hit this y equals button. It's the top left button again. And I'm going to hit clear. And this is the square root of x. Because remember, this is your y equals, so you don't have to do anything for the left side. So I'm going to type in the square root of x. Okay, so square root is above x squared. So I need to go second and then x squared. And then I'm going to put the x in there. Okay, let's just look at it. I'm going to hit graph on the top right. This is what the square root function looks like. This is square root parent. And so this is new to you. So I'm going to hit the table. So I'm going to go second, graph, and I'm going to write down what I see. So I notice that I have errors at the beginning, and then 0, 1, 1.41, 1.73, 2, etc. So I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to move my calculator out of the window so you can't see it anymore, and I'm going to write down what I see. Okay? So I've got -4 says error, -3 says error, -2 says error, -1 says error. Okay, 0 says 0. The 1 says 1. The 2 is 1.4142, and I don't really need all of those numbers. So the next one I may just round. The 3 is 1.732, but I could just write 1.7. This one I could just write 1.4. And when the 4 is there, you see a 2. All right. The reason you get errors for these is because if you put -4 into this x and tried to take the square root of -4, so if I put -4 right here in this x and tried to take the square root of -4, it doesn't work. So 2 times 2 doesn't make -4, and -2 times -2 does not make -4. You can't take the square root of a negative number without entering our imaginary number system, which you'll learn about later. All right, so let's start plotting these points. So the first point that we can plot is 0, 0. So that's right there at the origin. Okay, 1, 1. I'm going to go right 1, up 1. So right 1, up 1. Okay, this next one, I'm going to go right 2 and up about 1.5. So right 2 and up about 1.5, not quite, but close to it. And then this one, I'm going to go right 3 and up 1.7. So right 3 and up 1.7, so just a little under the 2. And 4, 2, I'm going to go right 4 and up 2. So right 4 and up 2. And then I'm going to make my graph. And this is what our square root parent function looks like. So the quiz down the road, if you see a picture that looks like this, it's your square root parent, and the equation is f of x equals the square root of x. Okay, x-intercept. This is where the graph is touching the x-axis. Do you know what it is? The graph is touching the x-axis right there at 0, 0. Okay, the y-intercept. Do you know what that is? This graph is touching the y-axis right here at 0, 0. Okay. All right. I'm going to skip this next one because I may have you try to do that one on your own. Okay, let's go down to this next one here. So this is the bottom one on this page. And this one is called the cube root. This right here is a cube root. So this is the cube root parent. So when you see this equation, you read it f of x equals the cubed root of x, and so it's the cube root parent. Okay, so we need to get our table filled out in order to make the picture. All right, so I'm going to go to our handy dandy online graphing calculator again, and you're going to need to know where that cubed root is. Okay, so I'm going to go to my y equals, and I'm going to hit clear. Okay, so to get to the cubed root, I'm going to hit math. And then cubed root is number 4. So I'm going to arrow down, and then I'm going to hit enter. And I'm just going to put the x in there. And remember, x is to the right of your green alpha. Okay, let's just look at its picture. So I'm going to hit graph in the top right. This is what your cubed root parent function looks like. Now let's get those numbers. So second graph, and I don't know that I'm going to write all the numbers this time, so I'll probably round this as -1.6. I'll probably round that as -1.4. So I'm going to move this away so I can start filling out the table, and then we can plot them together. Okay? All right. So -4 is about -1.6. -3 is about -1.4. And I am rounding here. Negative 2 is negative 1.26. Negative 1 is negative 1. 0 is 0. 1 is 1. 2 is 1.26. 3 is 1.44. Well, I'll just say 1.4. And I could have put that as 1.3. I'm sorry. And 4, let's round to 1.6. All right, so let's plot these points. So remember, x is left and right, y is up and down. So I'm going to go left 4 and down 1.6. So left 4 and down 1.6. So a little bit farther than 1.5 down, but barely. Okay, this one, I'm going to go left 3 and down almost 1.5. So left 3 and down almost 1.5, but not quite. Okay, this one I'm going to go left 2 and down 1.26. So left 2 and down 1.26. So I'm not going quite as far down as I did the last one. I just eyeballing it. Okay, negative 1, negative 1. I'm going to go left 1 and down 1. So left 1, down 1. 0, 0, that's easy. That's right at the origin. Okay, 1, 1. I'm going to go right 1 and up 1. So right 1, up 1. This one, I'm going to go right 2 and up 1.2. So right 2 and just a little bit above the 1. Okay, this one, I'm going to go right 3 and up 1.4. So right 3 and just a little under 1.5. I don't even know if that looks like it's under 1.5. This one, I'm going to go right 4 and a little bit more than 1.5. So right 4 and a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to make my graph. So, and there it is. It's so pretty. This is our cube root parent function. Okay, x-intercept. What do you think? 0, 0. The graph is touching the x-axis right there at 0, 0. And y-intercept, what do you think that is? 0, 0. The graph is touching the y-axis right there at 0, 0. Okay. Now, I do think I'm going to tell you the name of the one up above, but I think I'm going to not fill it out, so you have to figure that out for yourself. So this one here, when the equation is f of x equals x cubed, that is our cubic parent function. So this one, I think I'm going to see if you can put this equation in your graphing calculator, fill out the table, plot your points, and then answer the x and y intercept. Okay, let's look at the next three. These next three are a little bit funky. Okay, this one right here is called the rational parent function. And its equation is f of x equals 1 over x. Okay, this graph is going to be something different than what you've really seen in your past. Okay, so I need to put this equation right here into my online graphing calculator so I can get my table, so then I can plot my points. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go to my online graphing calculator. I'm going to hit the y equals, the top left button. I'm going to hit clear. Now, the easiest way to do a fraction is alpha y equals. So alpha y equals. So the green button alpha and then y equals. And number 1 is the one I want. So I'm just going to hit enter. And then it was 1 over x. So I'm going to put a 1. I'm going to arrow down. And I'm going to put an x. And then I'm going to right arrow just to hop out of it. Just to teach you how to hop out of a fraction. So 1 over x. Okay, let's look at it. Let's hit graph in the top right. And this is how it looks. It looks kind of funky. All right, so I'm going to go to the table. So second graph. And I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to write down what I see. Okay? So because I put that in the calculator as a fraction, it spit fractions back out at me. So negative 4 said negative 1/4. Negative 3 said negative 1/3. -2 said -1/2. -1 said -1. 0 was an error. 1 said 1. Okay, let me look. 2 said 1/2. 3 said 1/3. And 4 said 1/4. Okay, let's see if we can plot these points. All right, I'm going to go left 4, and this is a quarter, so it's a -0.25. So I'm going to go left 4 and down just a quarter of the way. Okay, -1/3. That's like -0.33333. So I'm going to go left 3, and I'm going to go down just a little bit more than I did the last time. Okay, -2. I'm going to go left 2 and down 1/2. So left 2, down 1/2. -1, -1. I go left 1, down 1. Okay, I can't do anything with that. 1, 1. I go right 1, up 1. Right 2, up 1/2. Right 2 and up just half of the way. Okay, right 3 and up. Remember, this is 0.333 repeating. So right 3 and up not quite half of the way. And then a quarter, remember, is 0.25. So right 4 and up a quarter. So right 4 and up a quarter of the way. Okay, so now I have to try to draw this graph. Okay, so it is never going to touch the y-axis, and it's never going to touch the x-axis. So it kind of does something like this. Starts flattening out, not allowed to touch that. Oh gosh, I kind of touched the x-axis, but I'm not supposed to. All right, and so this one comes this way. Something like that. All right, so the x-axis and y-axis, they're kind of like an electric fence. You can't touch them or you're going to get shocked. So it's getting really, really close to touching the y-axis on this side, and it's getting really close to touching the x-axis on this side. Same thing with over here, but it's never going to do it. So this is our rational function. So this is brand new to you. You've never seen it before. So if you see a picture that looks like this, the equation is f of x equals 1 over x, and it's called the rational parent function. Okay, so I told you that this graph is never going to touch the x-axis, right? Because that's like an electric fence. It's never going to touch it. That means there is no x-intercept. So I'm going to write none. Okay, y-intercept. This graph is never, ever, ever going to touch the y-axis either. So there is no y-intercept. So that's something new. We haven't seen that yet. So this graph is special. It never touches the y-axis. It never touches the x-axis, which means there is not an x-intercept or a y-intercept. Okay. This next one is called our exponential parent function. I hear she's purring. And one way to remember that is x is an exponent. See how the x is an exponent? So when you see x as an exponent in your equation, then that's called exponential. So f of x equals 2 to the x. So that's exponential. Okay, so let's look at this. So I'm going to go to my graphing calculator again, and I'm going to type in 2 to the x. All right, so let's go to our y equals, and let's hit clear, and 2, above the divide bar is this little caret, that's what it's called, and I click that, and then I put x, so 2 to the x. And then let's just look at it. So I'm going to hit graph. That's what this guy looks like. So to hit the table, second, graph, and remember you may have to arrow up or arrow down to see certain numbers, and I'm going to just start writing down what I see. Okay? So -4, I see 0.0625. Negative 3, I see 0.125. Negative 2, I see 0.25. Negative 1, I see 0.5. 0 is 1. 1 is 2. 2 is 4. 3 is 8. And 4 is 16. It really started growing as we went. That's why it's exponential. Okay, let's try to plot this the best that we can. So I'm going to go left 4 and barely up at all. So left 4 and just barely up off that axis. Just barely. Okay, I'm going to go left 3. I'm going to go up a little bit more, but not very much. So left 3 and up just a little bit more. And of course, I can't do this very well. Left 2 and up a quarter of the way. So left 2 and up a quarter. So a little bit more up than the last one.
Oh my God.
This one, Colin.
What is that noise?
I'm going to go left 1 and up a half. That one's easy to plot. Okay, this one, 0, 1. Colin, you need to stop. I'm so sorry, everybody. 0, 1, I go up 1. 1, 2, go right 1, up 2. 2, 4, go right 2 and up 4. 3, 8, I'm going to go right 3 and up 8, which I can't make fit, so I'm going to stop there. Okay, this graph is never, ever going to touch the x-axis. It does touch the y-axis, but it's never going to touch the x-axis. So the x-axis is the electric fence in this problem, and so it's never allowed to touch it or cross it, or it's going to get shocked. Okay, so what I want you to see if you can do is figure out what the x-intercept is and figure out what the y-intercept is. And then this bottom picture, I'm going to tell you what it is called. This is called the logarithmic. So you see the word log in here. So if you see an equation that has the word log in it, that's called logarithmic. Okay, I'm going to show you how to put this in your calculator, but then I'm going to let you finish the whole thing for yourself. But I am going to show you how to put that in your calculator. Okay, so I read this log base 2 of x. All right, so I'm going to go to my y equals, and I'm going to hit clear. And this one is hidden, so I'm going to go to math, and I'm going to right arrow, right arrow, right arrow, right arrow. Maybe it's under math. Okay, let me arrow down. Maybe I don't know where it is. There it is, there it is. Okay, so under the heading of math, I arrow down, and it's letter A. So there it is. So I went to math, so just so you can see me do it again. I went to math, and I'm going to arrow down until I see letter A, and then I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so it's already got the log there. What I need to put is the 2 for the base and x. So I'm going to type a 2, and then I'm going to right arrow, and then I'm going to type the x. And then from there, I can graph it and see the table and go from there. So I'm just going to hit graph so you can take a look at it. Just so you know, the y-axis is like the electric fence for this graph. So it looks like it's touching it, but it's just going to get really, 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 really close to touching it, but it's not allowed to touch the y-axis. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to finish this problem. Make the table, make the picture, and then tell me what your x-intercept is and what your y-intercept is. And then on this one, you need to tell me your x-intercept and y-intercept. And then on the cubic function, you will need to type this in, fill out your table, make your picture, and tell me the x-intercept and tell me the y-intercept. And that'll be all for this lesson, and then we'll come back to this and we'll learn more about these graphs in another day. All right, thank you. That's it for now. Smiley face.